Good afternoon and welcome everyone. I'm delighted to welcome everyone today to this special almost end of the year event, recognizing the community leadership and public service accomplishments of our students. I'm so sorry that we can't gather for this annual celebration in person yet, but I'm happy to see many of your faces on the screen. We understand, of course, if you need to keep your videos off, but I do invite you to turn them on to give us a sense of being together if you are able. And I also would, as Anna suggested, ask that people try to keep their microphones on mute so we don't get the kind of background chatter from wherever you may be. It's hard to believe that we're conducting this celebration of student service for the second time in this virtual format, but I'm grateful that through all we've faced this year, we have been able to see just all the different ways in which the community has continued to embrace and advance public service. And we've also witnessed the ongoing importance of ensuring that the law and legal systems are used to advance equality and equity, democracy, and the rule of law. And as future lawyers, our students give us hope that they will bend the arc of history ever closer to justice. Before moving on to the video presentations, I wanted to provide a few notable highlights of our students' involvement in public service this year. To start, let me congratulate the 115 members of the class of 2021 who will graduate with pro bono distinction. This class has distinguished itself by performing 20,737 hours of pro bono service during their time at the law school. That equates to just over 2,592 days of one attorney's work, or put otherwise, about 10 years of one attorney's full-time work. 24 of our graduates performed 300 or more hours of pro bono work and will graduate with highest pro bono distinction. 40 with high pro bono distinction for performing between 150 and 299 hours, and 51 performed between 50 and 149 hours and will graduate with pro bono distinction. Other notes, this year, 2 new pro bono projects were started by students. The Transgender, Gender Variant, and Intersex, or TGI Pro Bono Project was started by A.D. Lewis, Bruce Aesop, and Francis Tinney, who recruited 9 first-year students to join in the work, and nearly 180 hours have been logged by students working on that project. Moreover, we had the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Pro Bono Project started by Tyler McClure, Justin Garfinkel, Guillaume Julian, and David Liu, who recruited 13 first-year students to join their work, and nearly 200 hours have been logged by students working on that project. We also have an estimated 50 faculty, staff, and instructors who've performed at least 50 hours of pro bono service. Beyond awards and pro bono service, we have a student community committed to supporting one another and public interest leaders in every area of the school. Next year, in the class of 2022, 39 students have committed to a public service career upon graduation and qualified to become third-year public interest fellows. We'll have 17 public interest associates who will begin careers in the private sector and be supported by the Levin Center as they hope to transition into public service within the next few years after starting their careers. And 56 students from the class of 2023 have already signed up to serve as public interest mentors. These students will aid one another as they continue to pursue the commitments to service and public interest that led them to Stanford Law School. Carrying out a passion for service can only be accomplished with institutional commitment and with an institutional culture. To that end, I want to thank the staff of the John and Terry Levin Center for Public Interest and Public Service Law for daily supporting students and helping pave the varied and inspiring paths our students traverse as they seek to use the legal knowledge they're gaining to serve clients and address unmet community needs. It's been a challenging year for everyone, and I especially want to thank our dedicated staff for all the time they have put in over the past year in very challenging circumstances to supporting our students, and also to our faculty who are present on the call for their support as well. Before we move into the next phase of this program, which will include videotaped introductions of our honorees and remarks, I want to congratulate the Kane Community Leadership, Schnitzer, and Rody Award recipients. I want to acknowledge 2 important family members of Leon Kane's family who are with us today: Leon's mother, Henny, and his stepfather, Kelvin, and his sister, Kelly. We're honored that they're allowing us to continue celebrating the remarkable life of Leon by presenting the Kane Award each year. I also understand that there are some family members and friends of our honorees joining us today. Our Schnitzer Memorial Scholarship recipient, Elora Anderson, has her parents, Dr. Karen Hobdy Henderson and Dr. Daryl Henderson, her sister KJH, her grandparents, Mrs. Anise Wine and Mr. Paul Wine, and her partner, Jesus Galindo, with us today. One of our Rhody Public Interest Award recipients, Trillium Chang, has her friends, Sarah and Francois Chang, watching today as well. There are some benefits to the Zoom universe in which we still currently reside, such as allowing family and friends from far to join us. I hope the family members who are with us know how much we appreciate the contributions that they have made in supporting their students and the contributions that students have made to the law school, the clients they've helped, especially during the year that has tested each of us. We know you're proud of them, and we share the great pride in all they've accomplished. Someone I must acknowledge who's not with us and would be beaming with pride today is Professor Deborah Roady, who created and helped fund the Rhody Public Interest Awards and who's deeply missed today and all days. Her untimely passing earlier this year has left a hole in the law school and in the lives of so many of us. Without Deborah's steadfast leadership and persistence, the law school would not have blazed the trail that it has in developing the kind of pro bono program and projects we have or the resources to support them. So I think it's just another occasion to mark how much Deborah gave to the world. Next, we'll together view videos that will run for about 25 minutes. Please stay through the end when Diane Chin will make brief closing remarks. Thank you for joining us, and now over to the video.
In 2018, Stanford Law School started the Community Leadership Award. This award isn't intended to honor those who have a lot of individual accomplishments, but really to recognize those people who bring something extra to the law school community, who provide support and care for their classmates personally and professionally, who build an environment that people want to be a part of, and who also help the law school nurture the leadership skills of people who are needed in a diverse world. The award was renamed for Leon Kane, a student who died in the summer of 2018 when he was a rising 3L. It was renamed for him because he perfectly exemplified all of the qualities that this award is meant to inspire. Leon was an unusually reliable, caring, and attentive friend who always looked for the best in other people. The characteristic in him that most stands out for me is that he had a super generous spirit, and he was always the first one to talk about the accomplishments of other people. He wanted to see the best that everyone else was doing. Here in the law school, he hosted parties that turned strangers into friends. He was a friend and mentor to many who looked to him when they needed help, especially to his fellow Balsam members who asked him for advice when they had questions about what classes to take, what internships to consider, and how to balance their commitments to law school and coursework with their commitments to friends and family. In his leadership position on the Business Journal, he nurtured the scholarly interests of his colleagues, and he turned drudge work into fun. In addition, when we here at the law school faced racism in our own halls, he worked tirelessly to improve diversity and inclusion. Leon's death was a tremendous loss to his close friends and family, to people here at the law school who miss his radiant smile, and to others who will never know the change that he would be able to make in their lives. The world lost a committed advocate when Leon died. But Leon would be thrilled to be with us here today to celebrate the generous spirits of others.
I have the pleasure of introducing this year's recipients for the Leon M. Kane Community Leadership Award, Peggy Hsu, Selena Malive, and Trillium Chang. Each of these remarkable students have, in their own way, made outstanding contributions to the law school community and perfectly embody the spirit of this award. Peggy Shue was lauded by her classmates as someone who's been instrumental in creating the social networks that have kept the 1L class connected during a year of isolation, as well as for her effortless humility and her advocacy on behalf of her classmates. Selena Malive's tireless efforts to support and care for her community and her work to create change are being recognized by her 2L classmates. Through her participation on law school committees, her involvement in multiple student organizations, and her personal connections to her classmates, Selena is invested in building community across multiple dimensions. Trillium Chang has been described as a great friend and mentor. She is being recognized by her 3L classmates for her pro bono leadership work supporting immigrants and refugees, her efforts to address the impact COVID-19 has had on individuals and families in the Bay Area and nationwide, and her time spent making the Stanford community more welcoming and supportive of all its students. As Trillium is also accepting the Deborah Roady Award, her remarks will come at the end of our program. I offer my congratulations to each of our recipients. We thank you for your commitment to your community, and we cannot wait to see what the future holds for each of you.
Hi everyone, my name is Peggy, and I'm so honored to be one of this year's recipients of the Leon M. Kane Award. It's been said before, but this is certainly a really strange time to be starting law school. I remember arriving on campus last August to orange skies and a global pandemic and a new community that I could only meet over the internet, and oftentimes feeling isolated and anxious and doubt-ridden about my decision to come here. But over the last 9 months, I've been humbled over and over again by the kindness and warmth and compassion of my fellow classmates who, even in a completely virtual year, have shown up for me and shown up for each other, whether by sharing interview tips in the group me, or organizing virtual happy hours, or sending encouraging texts to each other after a cold call, or rallying for our collective mental health. So I'm humbled and so honored to receive this award, but primarily because I know that it belongs to so many of my peers who are supporting each other in quiet and meaningful and unrecognized ways every single day. So thank you so much for bringing such care to such a hard year. I am so grateful to be a part of your community. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Selena Malive, and I'm honored and humbled to have been selected for the Leon M. Kane Award for the class of 2022. At this year's Fall Public Interest Awards, Amanda Alexander dared us all to be more comfortable at taking risks in the name of justice. To me, this was a reminder to be brave enough to reach high and into the unknown of the impossible, and to be wild enough to dream and imagine a better world, all while knowing that we are buoyed by our immense privilege of having SLS next to our names. This risk-taking endeavor can sometimes be hard to embrace at a school and within a profession that seeks to minimize risk at all cost. My challenge to us all, myself included, is to heed Amanda's advice and to be braver in taking risks with our privilege. A brighter and better world is possible, and we get to be a part of that. Thank you again for the honor.
Good afternoon, my name is Seraphine Danani, and I'm thrilled to be presenting this year's recipient for the Lisa M. Schnitzer Memorial Scholarship. The Lisa M. Schnitzer Memorial Scholarship was founded by the friends and family of Lisa M. Schnitzer, a 1L at Stanford Law School who lost her life in a fatal car accident in 1987. The scholarship was created by her friends and family to honor her legacy and especially to recognize her commitment to public interest and serving those most in need. I was fortunate to receive the scholarship last year, which allowed me to work at the Estonian Foreign Ministry on matters related to foreign policy, national security law, and international law. This year, I am thrilled to pass the baton on to Elora Anderson, a current 1L at Stanford, whose commitment to public interest has come in the form of teaching K-8 special education. This year, she'll be working at the Public Advocates as an Arc for Justice Fellow, working on matters related to K-12 special education, ensuring those who need education that they receive it. Please help me in welcoming Elora Anderson and recognizing her achievements thus far. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Elora Henderson, and I am incredibly humbled to be this year's recipient of the Lisa M. Schnitzer Memorial Scholarship. I'm honored to be recognized by a scholarship that has a rich history of supporting people who are deeply committed to public interest work. As a former special education teacher in Richmond, California, my mission is to show what students from my community can accomplish when given the right educational opportunities. This summer, I will be an Arc of Justice Fellow at Public Advocates, a nonprofit law firm in San Francisco. I will learn new ways to work on issues that directly impact the students and families that brought me to Stanford Law in the first place. I would like to take a moment to share my gratitude towards the scholarship committee, my fellow 1Ls, my loving parents, and my wonderful professors. You have all been truly supportive during an incredibly challenging time, and I hope to continue to make you all smile and make you all proud in the work I'm committed to doing for children now and in the years to come. Thank you.
Deborah Roady was one of the great teachers, scholars, and leaders in the history of Stanford Law School. From the time she was a law student, Deborah was motivated by the deep belief that law is a public calling and that lawyers have a special duty to promote the public good, provide access to justice for every person, and conduct their professional lives meeting the highest ethical standards. She understood that in working to promote the public interest, lawyers not only bettered society, but created happier, more fulfilling lives for themselves. From the day she arrived at the law school, Deborah worked to create a culture at the school that embodied these beliefs. In her role on the Public Interest Faculty Committee, she constantly sought to expand opportunities for public interest work by students. She provided enthusiastic support for the Levin Center. She also championed the pro bono policy and the creation of awards for pro bono service by all members of the law school community. She personally facilitated the expansion of public interest work by students by funding the Deborah L. Rody Public Interest Award, which recognizes graduating students whose activities have resulted in outstanding contributions to underrepresented groups or public interest causes outside the law school and/or outstanding public service within the law school. Deborah was an inspiration to her colleagues and scores of students. Her life embodied the values she preached, and she was loved and admired for this.
I first met Deborah Roady 30 years ago when I was a student at Stanford Law School. I took several classes with her and found her to be incredibly inspiring as a professor and also just very, very kind. And as I left law school and eventually ended up in the legal academy myself, she was an incredible resource for me. She took an interest in my career and extended a lot of helping hands. And I'll be forever grateful for her help to me in getting involved in the field of gender law and getting settled in the legal academy more generally. Professor Rhode was one of the nation's leading scholars on sex discrimination, as well as in legal ethics and the legal profession. But our shared love was gender law. There, I think we were co-conspirators, and we worked together to make the world a fairer place and a place that was better for women. And in her legacy as a scholar, she has left us both ideas about how to proceed and some of the tools we need to move the world forward. And in the field of gender law, I know that many of us will be working in her footsteps for a long time.
I had the great fortune to have Professor Deborah Roady in a small seminar in the second part of my 1L year. And this proved to be a significant inflection point for me, as I'm sure it was for many of her students. Having Deborah as a professor put me squarely and confidently on track for my public interest career. And I am today still so grateful for the influence that she had on me. Deborah's personal commitment to public interest and public service and pro bono was deeply inspiring. She also shared with us her insatiable curiosity and her emphasis on lifelong learning. And she offered incredible respect to all of her students, coupled with a heart of gold. In fact, I'll never forget, I wrote a paper for Deborah's seminar on a topic that I had been working on before law school, and I will always treasure Deborah's enthusiasm and support for me in the work. In fact, when she returned the final draft of the paper to me in hard copy in those days, I found that a large number of the footnotes had been cut out. And when I asked Deborah about it, she told me that I had included so many fascinating resources that she had added them to her file of things that she wanted to read in the future. I was so proud in that moment. She made me feel like we were colleagues and in the learning together. Deborah communicated 3 things to her students that were pivotal in my law school experience. First, the importance and value of public interest legal work. Second, the fact that it was absolutely possible for us to forge a path to a career in public service, both during and beyond law school. And third, that she personally supported and celebrated our dedication to that work. Deborah embodied those qualities, and they will continue to live on in the award named for her.
I am honored to introduce the 2021 Deborah L. Rody Public Interest Award recipients this year, and deeply saddened that it falls to me to do so. It remains unfathomable and surreal that Deborah herself is no longer with us and not presenting these awards herself, which I know was such a highlight to her every year. When Professor Rhody joined the SLS faculty, she noted that there was no recognition of students who were pursuing public interest careers or who contributed to building an overall service ethic at the law school, but instead only various and quite numerous awards and recognitions for different kinds of academic achievements. She sought to remedy this and establish what were then known as the Keck Awards in the 1990s because she wanted to remain anonymous. Deborah previously has noted that all of her philanthropy, supporting, encouraging, and acknowledging the public interest careers, law school contributions, and pro bono volunteering of the SLS students to whom she was so committed, was among her most satisfying. So each year we invite faculty, students, and staff to nominate members of the graduating class for the Deborah L. Rody Awards. We always receive incredible nominations, and then we send those to a selection committee composed of previous Rody Award recipients to review the nomination materials. This year, the committee selected Trillium Chang, Carolina Herrera, and A.D. Lewis. In communicating with us about their selections, the committee wrote, "Trillium demonstrates exactly the kind of commitment to social justice and advocacy that the award is meant to recognize and reward. In addition to her longstanding public interest efforts, her most recent initiatives, and especially the remote COVID-19 pro bono project, as well as her activism on and off campus, demonstrates she is clearly the kind of person that identifies needs in vulnerable communities at local and national levels, and then works tirelessly to address those needs to improve the lives of others." About Carolina, the committee wrote, "We are impressed with her pro bono work and leadership, especially as a leader of both the Prisoners Legal Services Pro Bono and the Stanford Prisoner Advocacy Resources Coalition. We felt it important to note her contributions as an advocate for incarcerated people of color. Finally, as the importance of affinity groups at SLS cannot be understated, we wanted to single out Carolina's board membership with Fly, Salsa, and Walk, and her own identity as a first-generation woman of color. She is clearly a member of these underrepresented communities who seeks to and succeeds in giving back to them, leaving the door open a little bit wider for those who will follow her." And about KAD, the committee noted, "He is very clearly an outspoken advocate and ally, and we're singularly impressed with his advocacy for queer and trans rights at Stanford. AD is also clearly an individual who notices and works to address community needs. As a co-founder of the first trans-focused pro bono project at SLS, we think it's clear from his heartfelt nominations that AD will leave SLS a better, more radical place. A contribution certainly worthy of the Rody Award." And let me just add my congratulations to all of our Rody awardees for this recognition and for your upcoming graduation. I think all of you can leave SLS knowing your imprint will be long felt and that your presence will be missed as you move on to the important work that you will pursue. Congratulations.
Hi SLS, thank you so much for choosing me as one of your award recipients this year. I feel so incredibly humbled. As I look back to the last 3 years that we spent together, I just feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Gratitude for all the wonderful chit chats we had in the hallway of the library or in Crocker underneath the sun, for the opportunities learned from our wonderful faculty, but also to be part of a community that really understands what it means to show up for each other and for the community that it serves. As I think back to the beginning of COVID in March last year, I remember feeling so stunned by how willing and eager our community was willing to give back and serve our community when things got really rough. And so I am constantly inspired by everybody's work, and I feel so grateful that I was able to be part of a community that helped me figure out what kind of lawyer I wanted to be and helped me gain the courage to pursue my public interest career. So thank you so much. Thank you for the honor. I hope to see you all very soon.
Hello. I am incredibly honored and thankful to have been selected as a recipient of the Deborah Roady Public Interest Award this year. I want to also congratulate Trillium Chang and A.D. Lewis for all their hard work and selection as well. I wish we could be celebrating in person, but since we can't, thank you to the Levin Center and everyone who worked to set up this Zoom celebration. I don't really have that much to say, but I think that even as the pandemic drags on, there are a lot of great opportunities to help out with communities, organizations, and groups that you care about, even as a law student. So I would highly recommend anyone do that if they have the bandwidth and time to do so. Even if you think it requires a skill or background that you don't have, you might still be able to make a very big difference. And I found that there are so many opportunities for us to use even 2 or 3 years of law school to really help other people. So thank you so much. I hope everyone stays safe and healthy.
Good afternoon. My name is A.D. Lewis and I use he and they pronouns, and I'm a graduating 3L. It is an honor to win the Deborah Roady Public Interest Award this year, especially alongside Trillium and Kato, two amazing and dedicated classmates. I could spend hours talking about all the things that I've learned from my classmates here at Stanford. All of our jokes, all the support, all the lessons. I could go on. But I would be remiss to not honor the incredible legacy of Deborah Roady. Like many of you, I am grateful to have known and to learn from her. She was a brilliant thinker, but she was also a generous mentor and an amazingly loving and gracious professor. It was only when I started to work on my research paper for her ethics class that I began to dive into her work in earnest. And that's when I began to realize the incredible impact of her thinking and leadership across the field of legal ethics, but more broadly in the legal profession. Through engaging with her books and her articles, I discovered countless lessons, important arguments, and pieces of wisdom that are going to carry me through the rest of my legal career. But even for those of you who didn't have the opportunity to know her, Deborah Roady's legacy offers valuable lessons to all of us. And I've summarized just 3 below. First, her legacy encourages us to fight for justice, even at great professional risk. Many of us know that during law school, she and her classmates collaboratively created these how-to guides for indigent defendants. And the local bar then threatened legal action against them, alleging that the students had engaged in the unauthorized practice of law, which is, of course, an ethical dilemma. Their times have changed now, and most bars would likely celebrate these students for their contribution. I do wonder what actions each of us could take to materially and radically fight for justice, or for access to justice, alongside those bumping into the sharpest corners of the law, even when some of our fellow lawyers don't agree, or when they think it's unprofessional. Second, her legacy teaches us that the legal profession itself is a problem, but her legacy refuses to let us stop there. She taught us that we can and should change the profession itself. Yes, she studied and wrote about the profession generally, but she was also changing it on an interpersonal level. So when I pitched that paper to her, the one that I mentioned earlier, I pitched a paper about the tensions between the goals of trans liberation and trans social movements, prison abolition, and liberal law reform strategies. I was incredibly nervous. I was worried that it was too tangential, that it was too radical, that it wasn't doctrinal enough, that it wasn't serious enough, but that it was too new, that it was too strange of a gender question. But Professor Rody took me seriously. She asked really insightful and incisive questions, and she enthusiastically supported the project itself. She, of course, pointed out additional ethical issues that I hadn't thought of, which was incredibly helpful, but she also then recommended plenty of books to read and colleagues to engage with. She took me seriously and made me feel included in the legal profession and legal academia like few other professors had. I really, really appreciated that. Lastly, her legacy recognizes that lawing for social change is necessary and celebration-worthy work. Professor Rody funded this exact award to recognize students who collaboratively work in the public interest at this law school. But I also think she did it to encourage all of us to resist the persistent erasure and undervaluing of social change work in our own communities. This is work that is often gendered, classed, and raced. But I think it's so important to recognize who does that work. I've witnessed firsthand just how many hours Trillium and Caro have spent building community, organizing pro bono projects, and engaging in long-term institutional change with no promise of recognition. They simply did it because it was aligned with their values. And that's a beautiful, amazing thing to see in other law students. So in conclusion, Professor Rody's life provides a roadmap for those of us committed to justice. And it is a reminder that everything we're doing is worth doing with others. I encourage us to take walks together in her honor and to see what we learn along the way. Thank you.
That was really wonderful. So, and thanks, Shireen Sinar, for your comment. We certainly do miss both Leon and Deborah right now, but you're right, it is lovely to be able to celebrate together. Just wanted us as a community to have an opportunity to share applause for all of the Leon Kane, Schnitzer, and Rhody awardees. So if you wouldn't mind turning on your camera if you're willing and just sending out a little love, a little applause. Great, thanks. It's great to see you and great to be in this community that is so committed to service, that is so full of leaders that are willing to put so much on the line to pursue their public interest goals and to advance social justice. So thanks very much. I also just wanted to say to those members of the class of 2021 who are graduating, congratulations. We will miss you. And as I think Anna says almost all the time, we will track you down if we don't hear from you, and you will always be a part of our community. Any support we can provide you in the future will be yours. Any hugs in the future, post-COVID, will be yours. And we can't wait to really be in person and community with you again. We are going to have an opportunity to meet in breakout rooms. So I just wanted to note that for any of the awardees, we are going to create breakout rooms for you, for your family members and your friends to come and join you. And I believe Chelsea is going to talk to us about how that will be accomplished. But thank you again to all of you for joining us for this celebration. Congratulations to our honorees and to the 35 plus Stanford Law grads who are going straight into public interest practice this coming year. Thanks so much for all that you've done for our community and all you will do for the world.